'Twas either the day when summer wanes, and rode I north from London town, where Cromwell'd taken power his reins, and traitor king lost head and crown. Rode I north on my good Bess, most sturdy and loyal and noble mare, my best friend, I must confess, who carried me bound for Nottingham fair. 3 long years of civil war she had carried me well upon her back, through fire and storm and blood and gore, of virtue and heart she had shown no lack. And so I rode through copse and dell, and traced the paths of old Sherwood, where once those merry men did dwell who followed the sword of Robin Hood. Cared I not at twilight's fall, though far I was from wayside inn. From Nottingham I'd heard the call of feasting ale and friendly women. The moon so full, so high, so bright, glared through the leafy canopy, clothed the world in silvered light, and lit my path for me to see. As I tripped a forest glade and raised my eyes to heaven's geld, an eerie glow leavened evening shade, and a wondrous vision I beheld. Soaring higher than any gable, riding upon a moonbeam's ghost, on beasts of wonder, myth and fable, came a rainbow-coloured host. From the skies the riders fell in armour bright of every hue, rode they down in full pell-mell, adorned with spike and curly-cue. I gaped and gazed in moonstruck awe, and heard the echo of Elfland's horns, mocking the chains of nature's law that bind us poor earthly pawns. A javelin thrown from the fairies' van alerted me to attend my folly. I spurred good Bess, and away we ran. The host rode hunt, and I their quarry. Through bush and branch at headlong pace, with spear and arrow raining round, from terror above we fled the chase, whilst horns from fairy huntsmen wound. With twig and leaf to hide my course, the aerial host to fall behind. My good Bess, most excellent horse, carried me far from fairy kind. Yet in my terror unabated, I saw not a low-slung bow, which impact saw me from Bess unseated, though she sped on, it laid me low. As I rose and counted neck and limb, my peril did once more approach. With ruby glow the trees were limbed, twixt trunks came fairy, split from the host. Wrapped in black and ruby plate, the huntsman strode up with steadfast gait. His visored eyes were filled with hate, and in their gleam I read my fate. From my belt I drew my pistol, and fired one off into his chest. Bound not by our mortal rules, dismissed did my martial test. The fairy huntsman drew his sword, I loosed last shot into his face. Lead bullet the fairy just ignored, he didn't even slacken pace. I fell back and lost my feet, sprawled against an ancient oak. Lying prone I was forced to meet lone huntsman of the fairy folk. And I thought I heard my death knell, while in warlike mood the fairy tensed. And as the huntsman's fell blade fell, I raised my arm in last defence. In scrabbling dirt my hand had grasped a sword once straight and strong and true. Alas, that state was long years past, now old and bent and rusted through. Poor hope that such a slender wand could for my sinner's soul stand guard. Farewell I bade soul and body's bond, and the fell blade was dashed to shards. He raised his arm too fast to wink, to grasp the spear slung across his back. Between armour plates was born a chink. I thrust Luck's blade into this crack. In fairy heart was cold iron quenched, his body flared and sunlight shone. From fairy lips a death shriek wrenched, and as I blinked, his form was gone. Thanking God, I breathed once more, and curious of my new sword's source, I studied then the forest floor of dirt and grass and struggling gorse. Stood I was where the ground had sunk, skull and ribs were scattered round, and upon the oak's most ancient trunk an arrow carved deep and pointing down. Was this where his last arrow fell, where Robin Hood was laid to rest? This lonely hidden forest dale, with trusty sword upon his breast? Whoe'er he be, I bade him thanks, who'd lent me use of grey good blade, and I gathered then his dusty shanks, to make anew his Sherwood grave. Doubtless some digging woodland beast had spread the bones and sword at rest. I prayed it not found to feast, with bare hands to bury, I did my best. With the bones I laid the borrowed sword, and with dirt I covered them both over. But as I prayed a sound I heard, and so I looked over my shoulder. In my funeral task I'd forgotten peril, the Faerie Hunt had me found, creeping, intent as the devil. Fore and aft, I was ringed around. Full spectrum of the fairies stood, watching me at funeral rite, limning that glade in old Sherwood, with rainbow glow, defying night. One from the watching ring strode out, all clad in golden plate and mail. That he was king, I had no doubt, so regal my heart could not but quail. I steeled myself and rallied then, as charge could readily testify. A king could lose a test of men, and a king could just as easily die. Weaponless I faced the king, luck's blade once more under the ground. I searched for any nearby thing, but a stick was all that my eyes found. But beggars cannot choosers be, and so I grabbed this branch and stood on guard. He seemed shocked at my effrontery, and in response he drew his sword. The king made with a mighty swing, in twain my branch was cleanly shorn. But can you hear it in the wind, cock crowing once, the night to morn? With flattered blade he parted my hair, and with monstrous strength pressed me down, but came then floating on the air, cock crowing twice to herald dawn. I felt defenceless on my knees, before this king I was but pawn. But hark, oh hear it on the breeze, cock crowing thrice to welcome morn. The king threw back his head of gold, laughed a peal like cathedral bells. With a flourish he sheathed his sword, and drew a bugle from his belt. The fairy king blew on his horn, an air, both fey and devil-may-care, that warned his men to flee the dawn, towards that bourne of who knows where. The hunt mounted up and leapt aloft, a host both fair and exceeding fair. As sky grew light and stars grew soft, they melted then into thinnest air. Still on my knees I sent a prayer to thank the Lord for the gift of day. In answer spied one weary mare, that to me best had found the way. We broke our fast and took our rest, and savoured much the morning air, that seemed so ripe and full of zest, and on we rode to Nottingham Fair.